Hey, it's Kevin and Fred. Do you have a referral for us here in Phoenix? There are 30,000 agents here that you could send them to. Why us? Well, for one thing, we'll keep you updated and you'll never have to track down your commission.
We'll also make you look really good to your client. And best of all, it helps us keep all this content free. So go to kevinandfred.com/referral to make the introduction. We'll take great care of them.
All right, Next Level podcast listeners, we're back, and today we are lucky. You guys are in for a treat. I'm joined by Sam Parr, the founder of The Hustle, thehustle.co. Sam, first of all, how are you doing today? And thanks a lot for being with us.
Thank you. I'm great.
Awesome. So, first of all, for the 7 people that listen to this that don't know what The Hustle is yet, give us a little background on The Hustle, and I'd love to kind of talk about your background and experience too after that before we kind of dive into some of the other cool stuff that you've done.
Yeah. So the grandiose description is that we're an information people or an information company that's geared towards youngish entrepreneurial type folks. But when I describe it to my parents when we were starting, I was like, it's kind of like the Wall Street Journal, but for like 25 and 30-year-olds. But basically, we have a daily email called The Hustle, and that goes out to well over 1 million people, and it lands in their inbox each morning and tells them all the business news and tech news they need to know. And then, like we were describing, we also have a premium publication called Trends, and that's our research arm. And in addition, we host huge events. So we have tens of thousands of people who attend our events each year.
That's fantastic. So, and how long has The Hustle existed?
So I can give you background in a little bit, but basically when I started the company like as a project where I would host a conference every handful of months to make money and then not work on it in between. And so I started doing that in 2014, but it became like a company in earnest in 2016. And so we'll be 4 years old in about May.
That's awesome. Now, I don't want to necessarily give away the punchline, but I've listened to some of your other talks and whatnot, and heard you talk about like Ted Turner and seeing what he built with CNN. Tell me, would you mind sharing with the listeners a little about the idea of like, okay, why go into a media company? Like, what was the thought process behind that, or where you hope to take that?
Yeah, so I've been an entrepreneur before I knew what the word was entrepreneur. So I've always started stuff. I've never had like a normal job. And I had hot dog stands and online liquor stores and all types of stuff. And I've had mild success in some and failures in others. But around a time when I had just sold the business, I started this thing called HustleCon, which is our big event. It's like a TED Talk for entrepreneurs. And I used content to make it popular. And around the time I read Ted Turner, he's the guy who started CNN, and I'd read about Rupert Murdoch and all these like media companies. And I thought that, I don't care what you think about those people or Fox or CNN, but it's undeniable that they changed culture with information. And I thought that was so inspiring and so neat. And I live in San Francisco, and I'm like really deep into the tech scene and Silicon Valley scene, but I'm from Missouri and I'm from Tennessee. And so I identified very much so with Ted Turner. He was from kind of a little bit of the country of Georgia and Atlanta. And I kind of identified with this outsider. And now Ted Turner has like, there's like the Time Warner Center and all that. That's where his office was. And I was like, this guy's badass. He's a little bit of an outsider. He had a twang, kind of shot from the hip. But he built this massive media and information company, and also kind of infiltrated Hollywood and New York elite and all this other stuff. And I was like, that's badass. I can do that. Or at least that sounds like I want to do it. And it was really inspiring.
That's pretty cool. Yeah. You think about that, like a guy from the sticks, if you will, making it in Manhattan and in Hollywood and stuff like that, especially with the impact that they've made. I mean, no denying that, like you said, regardless of if you're a CNN viewer or not, cannot deny that impact. It's huge. Tell us about so some of the things I found really interesting is, first of all, The Hustle, delivering the information on business, which in a very, just use the word youngish. I love that. I'm definitely youngish, not young.
Well, it's not young in age, it's more like growth mindset people, which right. A lot of people tend to be, our audience is younger, but we are by no definition. I hated when people call us like a millennial brand. It's like, no, we're agnostic. We're agnostic of age, gender, race, location, everything. but we're dogmatic about like, we are built for people who are going somewhere. They may be further along the journey, or they may be just starting, but they're going somewhere. And that's when I say young, that's typically what I mean.
It's, you know, it's funny is that what I related to with that is the writing style, right? So the fact that I think I heard you say like being a good writer doesn't mean you understand grammar. There's, you know, how to help people get across. The way somebody described it to me is you're letting them know, you know, how they feel, right? That's great
Yeah.
copy. And it's like, there's a bit of that in the way you guys report on the news.
Yeah, so I'm a self-taught copywriter. I basically locked myself in a closet for a long time, and I would just take like famous books like Catcher in the Rye or Saturday Night Live scripts or famous sales letters, and I would write them all out by hand to learn how they did it. And I realized that direct response copywriting, so the stuff that basically marketers would send you a letter at your home in the 50s, 60s, and 70s and say like, hey, buy this encyclopedia or whatever. And I was like, how did they convince these people to like give them money, and like what are the triggers behind that? And I kind of like I learned those, and I said we should apply this to more things, and that's kind of what we've done. And I'm by no means a journalist. I don't have formal training really, but I kind of just through trial and error and self-education learned how to use the written word to get my opinion across and convince people to read it.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome. Well, that's what I love about the style of the way you guys report. It's not stuffy, and it's like it's fun. And it every once in a while, it almost like it pinches you to make sure you're still paying attention to what you're reading, which is something I find to be really cool. Because most newsletters, I mean, let's face it, you got 1 million subscribers or 1 million plus people that are getting that email every day. That you've got to provide something other than just like your regular old type of writing. So whatever you guys are doing
Yeah,
with that
and
works.
basically it was the like and I thought about it in my head when we were starting. I was like, it's almost like we're like the information we want you to learn is good for you, but we're gonna smother it in like candy or sugar. So you're like, it's like vegetables and peanut butter. It's like we'll kind of trick you into reading it, even though it's good for you. And this is something I stole from Ted Turner when he launched like or CNN's like this like legitimate thing, but when they started they would do crazy stunts. Like they had when they were around for 10 years before they were popular, and something they would do to attract users is or viewers is they would like put a paper bag over a guy's head, and it was like paper bag man's gonna like read you the news. And they like did little things like that, and I was like, okay, I can be like, silly is not the opposite of professional.
Yeah, that makes sense. I think it's a buddy of mine used to call that red flag marketing. Like in a way, it's like you're waving the red flags, like, hey, come over here, check this out. It's just you catch people. Maybe you could refer to it as interrupting their normal pattern, if you will. But
Exactly.
yeah,
I love George Carlin, and when I was really young, I saw this special that he did, and he used to talk about writing, and he was like, great writing, it cuts through you. And he goes, it's sharp and it cuts you. And I was like, that's awesome. I want to be like that. And that's what I've tried to do.
that's awesome. So I realize that this question could be wide ranging, but how on earth do you have how do you build to 1 million subscribers, especially in such a short period of time?
Yeah. So it took us maybe on our third, either 2.5 years or 3 years in, we hit 1 million. And in the first year, we got 100,000. The second year, we got 500,000. And then the third year, sometime between 2 and 3, it was 1 million. And the way that we got each time was different. So the way we got our 100,000 was, it was just me and my partner and just us. I just blogged like a madman, and I got loads of loads of unique viewers, like page views and site visits to our blog content, and we would convert a small percentage of them into subscribers. But I was pretty good at getting traffic, and we just got a lot of traffic and did a really good job of converting them. And that's how we got our first 100,000. So blogging and word of mouth. And then to 500,000, we had this ambassador program, and we have like 20,000 ambassadors who have each referred like 20 people, and that helped us scale. And then we really mastered the business. So I know how much revenue we make per free subscriber because we have advertising in our email. And so that meant I knew how much we could spend to acquire a new customer, and we got really good at spending.
Awesome. Okay. And now you just mentioned the advertising. You guys do something, I don't know if unique is the word, but it's definitely not as common. When you're working with your advertisers, you actually charge them by how many of your emails get opened, as opposed to the industry standard of how many people are getting your email every day or the number of sends.
Yeah, and so the vision day one, like I said, it was like this whole Ted Turner thing. I'm also heavily inspired by SoftBank, which started out as a tech publication in Japan, which a lot of people don't know. And then they would like start companies based off of which advertising sold best. And that's kind of like my dream.
It's mind blowing. That to me is mind blowing when you look at what SoftBank is today.
Yeah, it's crazy. And so I that's what I wanted to do. I was like, I want to have an audience and make money off that audience with advertising to give us profits to create more stuff. And I was figuring out what's the best way to do this. And I read a whole bunch I researched like crazy. And email advertising seemed like a really great way to start doing that. And so that's why we started with an email newsletter, amongst a few other reasons. And we're definitely not the first to do it. I mean, there's a lot of newsletters that are big, like Ferriss, which is $1 billion media conglomerate, started out as a newsletter. But we definitely had to I think we're a little bit pioneers in it, in that we built our own technology to do it. We have our own sales force. Like, we built everything from scratch, because nothing out there to this day exists that allows you to do that in a really efficient way. And when I started in the industry, I didn't know anything. I mean, I still don't know a lot, but people would charge per 1,000 subscribers. So if you have 1,000 subscribers, you can get, depending on who they are, you can get anywhere from $10 to $100 per 1,000 sends. And that's how we started. But when you think about that, that's kind of stupid, because advertisers don't get value from the send. That's just a signal that just shows roughly how many people are going to view your stuff. Really, the value is how many people see it. And that's cost per open. And so we kind of changed our business model to be cost per open. In our case, it's quite simple, because let's just say that we charge, I'm making these numbers up, $50 per 1,000 sends, and we have a 50% open rate. Really, that just means $100 per 1,000, per
open. Yeah.
And so it was easy for us to switch, but the industry is stupid. They still do cost per 1,000 sends in most cases.
Maybe not. I don't know nearly anything about your industry compared to you, but is that because of a lack of a transparency, or like you don't have to prove it type of deal? And
I think the way it started is it was hard to prove, and so people just agreed that cost per 1,000 sends was a fair metric. But now, we have so much information on who views, who clicks, who buys, all this type of stuff, and the advertising and media world is kind of old school, and they do things, I think, in very silly ways. I mean, some of the old school stuff is great, but some is not. And that was just one of them that stuck. And we said, no, screw that. Let's do it this way. And our advertisers, we've worked with thousands of advertisers. They like that better.
Do you catch any shit from peers for doing it that way? Does that, or is it just, no, that's just the way they do it, and we do it this other way?
The second one, it took explaining to do, and it actually basically, if we only charge you for how many people see something, versus the other way around, where it's well, we'll get roughly this many views, but we'll get for sure this many sends, so pay us on sends. And that was better for us. We made a lot of money that way. But for long-term success, it's best the cost per opens. I think that's more fair.
Awesome. Okay. You mentioned something about building some of your own technology. I think I had read before you guys built your own email sending technologies. Did I hear that right?
We did. So the way that we have it, everything I'm going to say is either ballpark numbers or I'm making up, but point still stands true. Let's say we have 1 million subscribers, and we charge, let's say, $20 per 1,000. Let's use sends for sake of argument. That means we get 20 grand for every time we hit send. But a lot of people can't afford 20 grand a day. And so what we did was we divvied it up. And so Target will advertise with us, and they say, we want to reach 20 million sends in the next 60 days. So we go, okay, we'll send part of the list your stuff this day, part of another part of the list another day, and then we'll slide in this advertiser who wants to spend $4 grand on this day. So it divvies people up, And we could also divvy people up based off of interest, what they've clicked, things like that. Additionally, all of our ads, there's no such thing really. I mean, there are a few ones, but they're not really good. There's no really good ad network for email. And so what that meant was we had to create all of our own ads. And so we can send a link. We close a deal with our advertiser. They go, Target says, all right, we'll spend $1 million with you, and we're going to send 10 ads. And we send them a link. They tell us all about their business and what links they want to send to people and stuff like that. We write all the ads. We send them back their custom link, and they approve the ad work. And then that automatically goes out to the right people in our email list. Additionally, what we did was we've never raised venture capital. And so we partnered up or linked up with a bank, and we can get loaned money against our accounts receivable, because sometimes these people take 90 days. And so all of that is all tied into our email sending technology.
Wow. Okay. That's impressive.
It's pretty neat. It's really cool, actually.
Have you guys been approached, or do you not like give it away, but like, do you let other companies use it or lease that from you?
No, maybe one day, but I learned early on, we got to stick to our business and what we know. I think eventually it could be interesting. And a lot of big companies have wanted to buy us to use this. And I think that's a great deal for them. But at the moment, no, we're a small team, and man, having a software product adds a lot of different, the economics are totally different. And so we just haven't done it yet.
Yeah, no doubt. That's interesting. That's kind of like, I could see a company trying to buy you in basically to get that one thing. Whether or not they understand I'm sure they understand the value of the subscribers and whatnot and the readers, but I'm sure there's some people who look at that technology as its own thing that,
Yeah.
they'd
So
like
it's
to acquire.
if it's what we can do is, and we've gotten close, but we've always walked away. But basically, a company that's let's say a huge media company that has 100 million subscribers or email addresses, we say like, give us that, and we'll turn that into revenue that you've never even thought about making money off of. We could monetize that in ways that you've never done.
Yeah, it's the upside of that is huge. So give me an idea, can you, just for scale, because I know you started this, how many folks work inside your company at this point?
Yeah. So full time, it's a small team, anywhere between 25 and 30 people at any given point right now. We make 7 figures a month in revenue. I think that there's a path to get to 100 million in sales in the next handful of years. That's our goal. At first, when I started the company, I was like, I want to hire a ton of people. And then once I learned about managing people, I was like, yeah, I want to not hire. Like, I'd rather hire like quality people than lower quality people, but a lot of them. And so I try to keep the head count slim or lean.
Yeah, that's a uncomfortable, familiar laugh of feel of, yeah, that's, people are they're amazing and beautiful in the way you can scale a lot of times. And it's definitely the thing that can keep us up at night the most. There's no doubt about that.
It's horrible. I'm thankful. We hired a president. I have a right-hand man who, in a sense, I'm kind of his right-hand man, but he kind of operates the people side of the business, and it's been a lovely partnership. But when it was me being like the guy, it was not my skill set. I think a lot of people, myself at least, but a lot of other people don't understand that starting and operating is different.
Yeah, so completely different. There's a book I read middle of last year after hearing the author speak called The Road Less Stupid by Keith Cunningham. And he talks about like the 4 different hats you can wear in the business. One of them being, I want to say it's the artist, the manager, the operator, and then the owner.
I'm going to write that down. What was it called?
I'll just send you a copy, man. I'll put I literally have one next to me right now. It made that much of an impact. I'll mail you one today.
Yeah. I partner, Adam Ryan is the guy, he's our president. And like, my life is awesome now. And for a long time, it was not awesome.
As you, let me ask you this. How long has Ryan been there?
Adam, his name's Adam. I went to high school with him. I've known him since we were 14. He was my first or second or third hire.
Okay. So he's been there a while. So what are the things that you've learned? Obviously can't give me the whole thing, but like in a nutshell, as your company has grown, you're, from not just a revenue standpoint, 7 figures monthly, up to, 25 to 30 people. what are some of the things that you've learned business wise that maybe you didn't expect to learn through this type of business?
I'm not. I used to think I was a good salesman. I'm not. Like you have to like put up with a lot of bullshit. You got to use jargon, unfortunately, and you kind of got to play a little bit of the political game. That's not what I'm great at. So I've learned that it is important, and I'm not the guy to do it. I mean, I can do it, but I'm not the best at it. I learned that personally, I'm really fucking good at launching stuff. That's my skill set. I'm great at identifying opportunity and saying, if we did this, this, and this, it will work. And I have a high hit rate. I miss a lot, but I have a pretty high hit rate. I've learned that, man, like this whole entrepreneurship thing and business thing, it's an emotional game. It's not really that hard. Like creating a business intellectually, I find it to be not challenging at all. It's a 100% emotional, or at least 80% emotional, 20% intelligence. Because I've met so many incredibly wealthy people who aren't that smart. Like they're not that. I mean, they're smart, but they're probably not like significantly above the average person. But maybe they're very brave, or they're very stable, or they're like confident, or something like that. And that is huge. That is really important. And so we have this thing called HustleCon, and we've had 500 speakers throughout the years. And so founders of WeWork, Away Travel, Casper, the biggest software companies you can think of, the founder of Pandora, all these like amazing people, many of whom are billionaires, and I get to hang out with all of them. And when I talk to them, I'm like, yeah, you're not that special. I mean, some of them I talk to them and I'm like, oh my God, I'll go to war for you. Other times I'm like, you're just a guy, you're just a woman, you're not that special. But they're just kind of bold or confident enough.
Like they had enough balls to actually do it.
Yeah.
For lack
or
of
they like a lot, and oftentimes they still doubt themselves, and they have, in fact, all of them, everyone I've met, they still have the same doubts, but they're like, yeah, I'm really afraid, but I'm going to do it anyway.
Yeah, it's funny. That was something I noticed early in my real estate career. I was really lucky. I got the opportunity to be around people that have had massive success and made millions and millions of dollars in their real estate business. And one of the things I noticed is like a lot of these people I would not consider them to be, really overly intelligent. But the common thing I saw was they had what I'd call time on task over time. So they had a lot of time. So time was kind of like their leverage piece, and that boldness piece that you just mentioned, like not afraid to gamble, to push all the chips into the middle, whatever you want to call it. Not afraid to live on the edge and be really bold with something that may or may not be received well. Not afraid to take those risks, right? And those two
I think
things.
real estate's the best example of that, because I'm dabbling now in real estate. I'm just getting into multifamily investing and things like that. And I've sought out very savvy real estate investors just to ask them questions. And real estate is like, tech is different. My company, we're kind of tech, but we're not that tech. I had to learn all of it. And oftentimes I feel way out of depth. I'm like, oh my God, I don't understand this. And then I'll talk to people who have software companies. I'm like, man, this is way over my head. Like, I just don't, I feel like I don't have the brain power to like grasp this. But then I'll meet real estate guys that I'm like, this is not intellectually really that hard at all. I mean, this is just numbers. You're courageous. And I think real estate is probably like, intellectually speaking, if you look at like what the upside is in terms of wealth creation and the intelligence needed, it's like the best ratio of like low intelligence and high upside, because it's so straightforward. Like literally everyone needs a place to live, and like it's just it can be basic arithmetic. Do you know what I mean? But you just have to be really courageous.
Yeah, there's a lot of truth in that, Sam. No doubt about that. There's a lot of truth in that. Hey, can we go back? I'd love to hear more on SoftBank. If you could, like and I say that not because I want to talk about them on this podcast, but I think that directly relates to trends, with where you guys are going with trends. Tell me, like, do you see that similar vision for you guys? Like, is that exactly the game plan you're following and that you'd like to take?
Yeah, so I have a little bit of an entrepreneurial ADD, and so I was trying to build a company where I I personally have the ability to try a lot of new things. And I read this, like I said, I'm a research nerd. I love reading history and I love deconstructing things in the past. That really excites me. And I read this article written in 91, and it was for the founder of SoftBank. His last name's Sun. And he basically said, when I started the company, basically what they did was they were, imagine Amazon.com, but they only sold software because the cloud didn't exist. They would sell software and computer parts and things like that. And then at year 1 or year 2, he created the PC magazine of Japan. And he grew it like crazy. And this was a different period, but people were buying magazines, and he would see which advertisements were the best, like which products had the most sales via his ads. And he goes, all right, let's invest in that company. Let's start this. And he used all of his profits to do that. He also had a trade show, and he did the same thing. He would go to the trade show and sell other people's software and see which sold best. And he would either start companies similar to it or buy or invest in those companies. And I felt that that was really fascinating because it allowed him to be creative and bold and try a lot of different things. And I'm just copying him, kind of.
Yeah, that's cool. So tell me more about trends, like with what you see, with kind of what the thought process is there outside of what you just said, and kind of what the future holds for us.
Yeah, so Trends, trends.co, it's our first product that we're selling to our audience. And when I was the email business was kind of humming and doing well, and Adam was running it, and I would go off and explore new ideas on what we can launch our audience. And I would research companies like crazy and create all these Excel sheets and databases and find patterns. And I would do two things. I would do case studies in my head, and I would write them for myself and see which companies operate well and what makes them tick and what makes them special. So I would kind of try to master something, almost like what a banker or a lawyer does when they're either buying a company or taking a company public. I would do that on my own. And then what I would do is I would look at trends using loads of different tools and data sets and try to predict what's going to be popular in the next couple of years. And I started doing that in order to help me find out what I wanted to launch. And then I just said, wait a minute, we should do this for other people. And then I kind of learned about B2B media and information services like Bloomberg, and there's dozens and dozens and dozens of these companies. And I realized, oh, wow, this could actually be a huge multi-billion-dollar revenue stream if we pull this off. And so that's what we launched with Trends. And so Trends right now, we purposely made it affordable. It's $300 a year, and we have analysts who go out and do case studies on companies. And we've also built and are in the process of improving technology that lets us see which items we think are going to be quite popular in the next handful of years. And we just publish all of our findings. And we have a group online where we discuss them with our subscribers.
Wow. Okay. That's cool. You just sold the subscription, by the way. And just, man, I could see this going so many different ways. And so feel free to smack me down on this, but I mean, you could go everything from like creating a hedge fund to what, I guess that's what SoftBank is at this point anyways.
Yeah.
To just investing keeping this, sort of in-house and letting the readers do with the information as they may.
So we're doing that one now.
Yeah.
Sam Parr, personally, not our company, I occasionally will angel invest in interesting things based off of our findings. And so I do that now. Ultimately, in the next relatively short term, 3, 4, 5 years, I want our company to invest or launch companies like this. Or they will help us identify which companies we should buy.
Yeah, that's really cool. You ever
it's a very selfish business.
But you know what though? Selfish, sure. But it also could be used. I literally started thinking, gosh, I could be using that myself as you said that. So selfish, but also can help others. And you start talking about trends like that. It makes me think of a quasi mentor who I've never met by the name of Adam Robinson, who is just really great at spotting trends. He's the co-founder of the Princeton Review and advises hedge funds and whatnot. A super smart guy. But he's talked a lot about, just seeing trends develop before they're blatantly obvious to everyone else.
And so we do. Go ahead.
No, I was gonna say that's just a skill that's extremely valuable.
And that's only part of the value. So one part of the value is we try to find trends. So for example, we crawl the web and find all this data, and we found out that keto cereal, like loads of people were searching for keto cereal. And so we said, we think this is going to be hot. And now there's a couple companies that have launched keto cereal and they're already quite big. And so that's like an example of trend spotting. But then on the flip side, I'm in the process of writing a report on the hotel industry. And I knew nothing about the hotel industry, but I went and dived deep and I figured out like, okay, so like the 3 metrics that matter most are occupancy rate and average revenue per available room. And I was like, okay, so those seem like the 2 metrics that you have to crack in order to have a successful hotel. Now let's look at the top 10 hotels and let's read all their annual reports and figure out where are they failing and where are there opportunities that collectively they all kind of agree on. And I'll write about that. And so that's where we kind of do case studies. So we do trend spotting and we'll do case studies on, let's say, the hotel industry. Or right now I'm also doing one on the fast food industry. And a common theme amongst them is it's really hard to retain fast food managers. And that's like a challenge that a lot of these companies are living or dying from. And so even if you are not in the fast food industry, I can think to myself, okay, fast food stores, like fast food companies, like what can I apply to my company or my life that I can steal from or I can learn from them. And so, for example, like, man, I should launch a job board for fast food managers, or maybe I should teach people, like train fast food managers, and these companies can retain me. Or where else is okay? So that's a huge opportunity, is retaining managers, even though they're like blue collar workers. Maybe I should do that for the trucking industry and help truckers get better jobs. And if I can teach companies how to retain those drivers for a little bit longer, I'll save them a lot of money and they'll pay me a lot of money to do that. You know what I mean? So like we help people find all these opportunities.
Yeah, no, that's super fascinating to me. So that's cool. So is that like a daily, weekly, monthly?
We're tinkering with the frequency, but we have a team of analysts here, half a dozen analysts, and what we do is a lot of the stuff lives in our private group, and we'll share insights on them. And then it's basically, I hate saying this because it sounds so trivial and small, but it's really just a weekly email where we share all of our insights. It's almost like I'm not in the real estate industry, so I don't know but let's say I'm not in the real estate industry, but I want to get into it because I'm very bullish on real estate. Because I'm not in the industry, I can't spend 6 months seeking out problems that you guys have. So our team is just going to go out and talk to you and find the problems and then tell our audience. And so we do that for the longest time, or since it's launching, it's been weekly. Now we're trying every other week and we're making it more in depth. But we tinker with the frequency.
That's fantastic, man. Well, Sam, I won't take up too much of your time.
No, look, this is my job. I'm here to talk and hopefully spread the word and provide value.
Yeah, no, you've absolutely done that. I can't wait to go back and re-listen and jot down my notes from the stuff that I've heard you say that have kind of had a few ahas already. Before we go, let me ask you this. So the hustle.co and trends.co, for anybody who wants to check out what you guys are doing, those are the 2 URLs people should go to. Is there anywhere else? I follow you on Twitter. That's where I first kind of actually found out about the hustle was just reading your tweets. What's the best way for people to catch up with you?
So if they want the daily email, which is awesome, sign up, go to thehustle.co and sign up. If they want trends, go to trends.co and sign up. We'll actually give you guys a 50% off code. What's a good code that you want to use? What's a simple word that you guys will remember?
How about just 3 letters? NLA?
NLA.
Yeah,
so
next level agents.
If you go to trends.co and sign up and type in NLA, we'll give you 50% off. And so they can sign up for Trends. And then, of course, if they want to see some of my crazy ramblings on Twitter, the Sam Parr is my Twitter.
All right. So I'll make sure this goes in the notes too. That's awesome. What's the most misunderstood thing about you or your company today?
When we started, and we still face this, is people said, the CEO of a very large media company said a daily email will never be bigger than $1 million a year in revenue. And we crushed that in our first year, and we do well over that each month. So I don't think people understand that what we are doing now is the tip of the iceberg, and that there's way more behind the scenes that we're working on that exist. What they confuse about me, I would say, I'm pretty introverted. I hate talking in front of our company. I hate, I don't love going out and networking and meeting people, which is weird because I have a conference company, and I'm horribly disorganized and hate structure. I hate it so much.
You and I have so much in common. That's
Yeah, I mean,
awesome.
I like to shoot from the hip, and it's gotten me in a lot of trouble throughout my life. I try to embrace the good parts of that and fix the bad parts, but I'm absolutely a liability.
It's awesome. I've got to. I'm gonna try this one, and I'm sorry I didn't prep you for this, but I love this set of questions that I completely ripped off from Tim Ferriss, which is 3 questions.
He's one of our investors, by the way.
Is he? Okay, so
Yeah.
you can tell him I stole this from him because I absolutely love these questions. Let's go through. I got 3 questions for you, and we can answer them in any order. Tell me one thing you're excited about that's really exciting to you. One thing you have changed your mind on, whether that be in the last year, 2 years, but something you've actually changed your mind on. And the third one, what's something weird about Sam Parr, whether that's like a hobby or a
Yeah.
habit, something that most people don't know. So those are my 3. Excited.
Okay. The first question, I'll give you 2. And this is the first one. I'm not just saying this because it's this real estate, but I'm very bullish on, and I don't mean this as a disrespectful thing, but I'm on tier 2, tier 3, and tier 4 cities. So I put like LA, New York, and San Francisco kind of in the top category. I think that people are are beginning to run away from those cities into the Nashvilles, Charlotte, Austin, like those types of cities that were typically not like prestigious, but they have wonderful quality of life. I'm very bullish on those cities, and I'm looking to invest in cities like that. The second thing that I'm very excited for, and it goes with the second question, which is what did I change my mind on? Remote work. When I started the company, I thought remote work was a horrible idea. And I don't actually entirely think it's the best idea, but it's unstoppable at this point. And I believe that in the future, a lot of workers will be remote. And that's why I'm bullish on like those higher quality of living cities that aren't maybe in the first tier.
Yeah, I would agree. I love that. All right, and then what's something that's weird about you? Maybe something not everybody knows about Sam Parr that's just a little odd.
I'll give you a few. The first is I'm very, very, very frugal. I track my spending like a hawk, whether I have a lot of money or whether I didn't have a lot of money. I'm like stupidly frugal. I collect old motorcycles, and I like old cars, and I've driven my motorcycle across the country a couple times. And I'm an amateur beekeeper. So I've got 10,000 bees, and I harvest honey from them. What else? Is there anything?
Is that an environmental thing, or is that trying to save money on honey?
I'm pretty like, whenever I get into something, I make like checklists. Like it has to meet these requirements. And like I wanted a hobby that didn't cost a lot of money because I didn't want to stress about it. I didn't want to have to spend loads of hours on it, or I could spend a lot of hours on it, but regardless, it would still exist. And I want it to be outside. And I just researched a hobby, and beekeeping kind of fit that.
Oh man, that's awesome. That's the best.
Yeah. And maybe one last thing. I think I'm going to live to be like 120 to 150. And I'm trying to like build my life to reach that.
That's awesome.
I'm really fascinated by like longevity.
You said you do listen to anything like Peter Diamandis does, or Dave Asprey, or those are the 2 guys I hear most commonly talk about living past 120 anyways.
Yeah, those guys are nuts. I think that Dave Asprey guy is cool and crazy, and I like that. I don't know if it has to be that extreme, but we'll see. I think I'm one generation too soon to make it a sure shot, but I think the people who are born now, like, as long as they don't get hurt, they will totally hit 150.
I think so too. I think there's sort of no doubt we can't be more than 10 to probably just 10 years away is my guess. Though Tim Ferriss and Peter Attia would definitely disagree with that. They're a little more not so bullish on the longer lifespan as much as having a better health span, I think is what they refer to.
What do they think? They think that they will live long?
That they think the ability to live to say 150 or beyond is not nearly as attainable or as close to being attainable yet as I think some other folks like say Peter Diamandis or Dave Asprey might say it is. But they're also, they talk about it, and probably more so Peter Attia. I say that because his podcast is specifically about medicine. Talks about just like, hey, being the absolute healthiest and expanding the amount of time you have where you could, like, we're probably where you feel today, like healthy, like you can do things, you're not limited by injuries or by age, things like that.
Yeah, well, that's cool. I would love for you to forward me the links where they talk about that, because that's very interesting to me. I wouldn't say I'm incredibly well versed on it, but and I definitely think someone like uh, Tim Ferriss is. Look, if you're rich, it helps.
Yeah.
If you're rich, you don't have to work a lot. That helps. But that's cool. I'm really into that stuff. I don't want to live to be 150, but feel horrible. But I think that, like, for sure, I can be in my 90s and 100s and feel okay.
Yeah. Listen, man, if Brad Pitt can look the way he does at whatever age he is today, like there's got to be a chance for us to still feel good at 90, right? Or 100, whatever that looks like.
Yeah, he's got the secret recipe of money, but I think, yeah, it'd be nice if everyone can access that, and I think about that a lot.
Yeah, that's cool, man. Well, Sam, I appreciate you taking the time out today. I'll shoot you that information. And any last parting shots, anything we should share before we sign off today?
I am a total outsider in the real estate industry, and I'm trying to break in. So if someone wants to talk and hang out, I am all ears, and they can tweet at me, and we could talk. I'm in the process of buying some multifamily places in St. Louis, or at least I'm trying to be in the process. And so I'm always trying to get in on that. I think, and I'm trying to meet as many people as I can so I can kind of learn it.
Cool. We'll talk some offline about that. So, all right, Next Level podcast listeners, thanks for tuning in today. I'm sure you enjoyed this. And don't forget thehustle.co and trends.co. Go there and check out very, very cool stuff. And we'll talk to you guys next week.
Thank you.